Online right now, we have another quick conversation between Gwyneth and Dr. Sanchez about how the redrawn congressional maps could impact the November election. Just go to our New Mexico in Focus YouTube page to see that. Now, bringing back our line opinion panelists, a recent report from the Santa Fe New Mexican is exposing what education officials call a serious problem at districts around the state, and that is high turnover rates among superintendents. New Mexico's Public Education Secretary Kurt Steinhaus says the state had 37 new SUPs at the start of the 2021-22 school year, and that's out of 89 districts statewide, by the way. The article has gotten a lot of reaction since it was published, as you might imagine. Inez, were you all surprised to see that statistic? Because, I mean, turnover at that position is a big problem we're about to talk about. I'm interested in your reaction to that number, though.
I'm not surprised because I was an education reporter for a long time before I became an opinion writer. And school boards are notoriously political.
Yep.
And when boards change, superintendents change. And I think in recent years, the many mandates, the public criticism, just the pressure of being a school superintendent is causing people to get other jobs. And then you have the instances where a few years ago we had a bright young thing, Joel Boyd, who was our superintendent, and he was there for a couple of years to make a mark and to lead.
Right.
And so you have that phenomenon as well. And I think education, for all that we all want it to be improved and have education outcomes better for kids, that if we did nothing for 5 years except fund it and leave teachers and superintendents alone to do their jobs, we would be surprised at how good our results would be. You know, we have an elementary school in Santa Fe called Pinon Elementary, which was one of the largest. It reflects the population of the town in that it had a bunch of minority kids, a bunch of poor kids, a bunch of middle class kids. It was almost Santa Fe in a microcosm. And it should not have tested well, but it did. And the reason was that Janice Devote was the principal for I don't know how many decades. And she's retired and she trained somebody, and we have another good principal apparently who's leading Pinon again. And when you have that kind of longevity and excellence in leadership, you do fine. And that's what we need to do with our superintendents in our districts. You know, Eladio Chavez is our superintendent now in Santa Fe. He's very young. He's in his second year. Hopefully he will, dig down and give us, 5 or 10 years and do a great job.
Yep. Have to tip our hat to Robert Knott, however, from your newspaper for a great job on this story. He really knocked this thing out. I highly recommend it at the Santa Fe New Mexican for you folks watching. Laura, interesting. COVID-19 was mentioned, of course, as a deterrent for many professions. Are we past the problem, perhaps, for superintendent turnover now that the pandemic has passed? Is this an anomaly, or how do you see this?
I think that superintendent turnover is always an issue. I mean, I think in a good year, or I guess, a non-COVID year, it's going to be an issue. There's just a lot of movement across different districts. There can be some differences in terms of pay, opportunities. I think you see a lot of movement, but COVID has certainly exacerbated all of that for superintendents. It's made it very, very stressful for them to have a cohesive, campus, a school district that actually functions well. You've got a lot of issues with absenteeism. There's a lot of pressure regarding, making sure that students have what they need and that teachers are also able to do their job. I mean, I think there's so much uncertainty, and I think it's caused a lot more stress for superintendents. And we just, in general, it's hard for us to attract people from out of state for these positions. And then we just have not that many people in state that have risen to that level of becoming superintendents. So I think it's a real problem, and one that I hope that the Secretary Steinhaus is looking at. It sounds like they're certainly trying to figure out how to add more resources to the issue, training, whatever's necessary to make sure you continue to grow people and keep them in positions. Because that turnover, creates such a huge problem, whereas districts that have had a long-time superintendent, you see them able to do better over time.
That's right.
Because they have those relationships that they've developed. For example, Sue Cleveland and Rio Rancho, makes a big difference.
Senator, the most interesting part of the story to me, managing relationships with school boards. I mean, this is a fraught situation for every superintendent. It's become so politicized though, school boards. Do you know what I mean? You got people openly running ostensibly in opposition to the current superintendent. I mean, what are superintendents supposed to do with recalcitrant, difficult boards? Is this part of the problem here?
I think they do a lot of praying to, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be flippant about this because this is a very, very serious issue. Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that, and school boards have this ability with the help of the legislature, is one of the points that really struck me was the fact that in many cases, the pay between a top level teacher and a superintendent is minimal.
Right.
And you're going, okay, I can stay here and I can make this much. I can make 5,000 more if I go over here, but I've got 15 new responsibilities that are, and it becomes, is it worth it for me to do that?
That's right.
And yes, I have been amazed at how, because I grew up in a small town in Texas and my daddy actually was on the school board at one time, but the politicizing of it is, I see it becoming like county commissions are.
Right.
And it really worries me to do that. And instead of focusing on children, they're focusing on who's in charge and who's going to decide what we're teaching. Mm-hmm. And I think teachers who have the knowledge and experience to become superintendents go, no, thank you.
Well, we've got another problem here, and that's principal turnover as well.
Yeah.
And that's part of it as well. Inez, let me give you the last word on this. On the school board issue. Once again, the school board has part of their job is to be able to fire the superintendent, right? It's your boss. And how to manage that political, minefield. To me, that would be the number one reason I would get out of the job, especially in a hot job market where, as Laura said, you can make $5,000 to $10,000 more. What's your thought on that?
No, the school board is to pass the budget and hire and fire the superintendent. Those are their legislative charges. Mm-hmm. It's not to hire the wrestling coach or to fight with somebody over whether the teacher is doing curriculum that you don't like. Mm-hmm. What I would say is that it's really important. We're lucky in New Mexico that some of the political battles that have happened in other states that we've seen with screaming and all that kind of thing, mm-hmm. we don't have that yet to that degree. We do have, sadly, school boards that are there to make sure their cousins get jobs and get rid of the superintendent because he wasn't mean to the coach who was mean to their grandson, that kind of thing. And we just need to get over that. The job of schools has to be educating children. Eddie Ortiz was the superintendent of Santa Fe Public Schools for over a decade before he sadly died in surgery too early. And he told me a great story about his first interview for a teaching job. He had gone to West Las Vegas and he got interviewed by the school board. And when he was interviewed by the school board for a teaching job, he said, I think I'll stay in Santa Fe. And he went back to Santa Fe, rose through the ranks, and was an absolutely visionary superintendent.
There you go.
And we have more people like that.
That's a good story there to wrap that up. Exactly. Thank you all for that conversation. All right, we'll be right back here at the virtual roundtable in just about 10 minutes to talk about a new study detailing the military's impacts here in New Mexico. But it's what was left out of that report that's concerning environmentalists. Another environmental issue is circling overhead for people living near Chaco Canyon. They're challenging a plan for 370 new drilling permits near the national park. All right, now for decades, those developments have encroached on and destroyed landscapes that are sacred to many of the Southwest tribes. In the coming weeks, you'll hear from some of the people trying to protect Chaco. And this week, our land senior producer Laura Pascas talks with Teresa Pascual with the Pueblo of Acoma.